Welcome back to UDTV. We will now begin the Finance and Operations Committee virtual meeting. The meeting of the Finance and Operations Committee meeting will please come to order. Mr. Rogers, I'd like to note that all board members are still present and accounted for. I will now turn over the Finance and Operations Committee meeting to co-chair Dr. Haig.
Thank you, President Brown. Mr. Lee, can you please begin with an overview of your agenda items for the evening?
Of course, Dr. Heck. The Finance and Operations Committee has two agenda items this evening. Both are informational. During our first presentation, we will discuss the district's latest annual water testing results. We will discuss regulatory background, methodologies, and we will also share the results of this year's testing. This item correlates to Goal 1 of the Upper Darby School District Comprehensive Plan. In our second presentation, we will announce the upcoming vendor fair tentatively scheduled on January 18, 2021. The Upper Darby School District Vendor Fair is a wonderful event that Mr. McGilvery from the Procurement Office started in January of 2020. The intent of the vendor fair is to inform the new and existing vendors of upcoming opportunities and to encourage women and minority vendors to participate in the district's procurement process. This item also correlates to Goal 1 of the Upper Darby School District Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Please do go ahead and tell us about the water.
All right. So good evening, everybody. My name is Marvin Lee from the Business Office. Our first presentation is structured in a way to inform you why and how we are testing the water quality on an annual basis and what maintenance team have done last year to improve the water quality for our students and what the results are from this year's testing. Pennsylvania Act 39 of 2018 was enacted to prevent exposure to lead contamination in the drinking water in Pennsylvania schools. It is not mandated to test water quality each year, but the Upper Darby School District has been testing water ever since the law was enacted in 2018. If the school district decided not to test the water quality on an annual basis, it is mandated that the school district holds a public meeting to discuss the matter once a year. But again, Upper Darby School District tests the water on an annual basis ever since it was enacted. The Pennsylvania Department of Education does not dictate sample location at each site. So the Upper Darby School District consulted with Aqua, our testing lab, to develop the sampling locations in our schools. They are kitchen, nurse's office, first floor water fountain, second floor water fountain, and one more time at the same water fountain on the first floor. There are particular methodologies we must follow to gather water samples properly. We are required to collect 250 millimeter sample at each faucet. The sample should be collected before the building is occupied and before any water is used in the building. Finally, the water should sit in the pipe at least for 8 hours, but not more than 18 hours. Mr. Tim Leaf and our maintenance team are trained to collect the water samples properly. Before we discuss this year's results, I would like to touch on a project that we took on over the summer. Actually, Dr. McGarry was one of the biggest proponents of this work. Thank you very much, Dr. McGarry. First of all, EPA lead level threshold is 0.015 milligram per liter, and EPA copper level threshold is 1.3 milligram per liter. When we shared our water testing results last year, none of the testing results came above the EPA threshold. However, the lead was detected at one of the student fountains, and it was detected, but it was still under the EPA threshold. But the lead was detected at one of the water fountains for students. Our board members and Dr. McGarry advocated for installing bottle fill hydration stations to provide safe drinking water to our students. I'm happy to inform you today that the maintenance team installed 46 touchless bottle fill hydration stations over the summer of 2020 throughout the school district. At least one unit was installed on each floor of our school buildings except for Ronaming. Ronaming was removed from the project list in anticipation of the school expansion construction project in Ronaming. Now I will share this year's results. Total 70 water samples were collected in November 2020, which represent 5 sampling sites at each of our 14 schools. I am happy to announce that none of the reading came above the EPA threshold for both lead and copper. In summary, 60 samples had no detection of lead. Lead was detected in 10 samples, but all were below EPA threshold. 25 samples had no detection of copper. Copper was detected in 45 samples, but all were below EPA threshold. The full report of the testing lab is available in the board doc for your review. Thank you for your time and your attention. I'll take any questions from you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I will just add that if anyone does happen to look at the full testing report, to just note that the testing lab gives units. I'm gonna use the terminology incorrectly. It's UG per milliliter per liter instead of milligrams per liter. Micrograms, right? So micrograms per liter instead of milligrams per liter. And so the numbers look different, but they are all well below the threshold. I believe President Brown has a question.
Obviously, the not detected is great, but the some detected, the below the threshold. Is there any reason you may or may not be able to answer this? And I want to be fair. Is there any reason why some may have some copper and some may not, or is it just the nature of like why is the sky blue type question?
I am not really familiar why, but after the research of the CDC website and the EPA website, copper is like an element that any living organism requires to survive. So any minimum number of copper is required and needed in our body, but any excessive value of copper is harmful for our body. So, I mean, in my opinion, like a copper is not as concerned as actually lead.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
got it. Okay.
Thank you, President Brown. And just to reiterate, Mr. Lee, you said that we had no lead detected in any of the student water fountains this year. We did have one last year. Are there any other thoughts about what else we could do? I know that we were eager to get the fountains in, thinking that might help. Do we have any other plans at this point, or not yet?
Yes, we do. In actually, so we have for nurse's office, we will put a sign in nurse's office faucet to encourage people to drink water from the newly installed hydration station on the hallway. We're gonna put a sign on, and actually we put more than 10,000 signs for the COVID-19, so we are really good at putting signs up. And for the kitchens, and the PDE recommends that we run the water between 30 to 120 seconds to flush out all the lead in the system. So we already contacted our food services vendor to incorporate that practice in their operating procedures. So we already did that. And also today, we decided to replace all faucets in the kitchen to lead-free faucets.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Lee, for being absolutely on top of these things. If there are no questions, no further questions on this item, we can move to agenda item 2.
Okay. The second presentation is about the upcoming vendor fair. Mr. Joe McGilvery and Mr. Tim Leaf spearheaded the first ever Upper Darby School District Vendor Fair in January of 2020, and we are planning on having another one. The event is tentatively scheduled on January 18th, 2021. Last year's event took place on the Martin Luther King Day of 2020, and we are having the same event on the Martin Luther King Day of 2021. We are hoping that it's becoming a tradition in the future. The main purpose of this event is to let the vendor community know that we are open for business. Some of the topics that we will cover include how to become an Upper Darby School District vendor, how to become a Pennsylvania State CoStarz contract vendor, review of quotation, public bids, and RFP processes, sharing the upcoming projects such as bathroom projects at Beverly Hills and Bayot, and 8201 Lansdowne Avenue building renovation project. And we will also stress the importance of women and minority vendors in our procurement processes. And we will also share what's in the horizon for the Upper Darby School District. Last year, we had more than 100 attendees, and we met more than 50 new vendors. And it was also a great opportunity to connect with women and minority-owned vendors. Here are some of the things that we are trying to do this year. Virtual event. Obviously, we are in pandemic, so the event will be held virtually. And more outreaching effort. The partnership with the Blue Book was excellent last year, and we are working again with the Blue Book team to coordinate the event. However, the district administration will do more active outreach to various vendors and organizations. We are aware of more than a dozen MWBE certifying agencies. We will contact them, we will encourage them, their members to participate in our events. We will also outreach to various local Chamber of Commerce organizations, such as Ronaming Business Association, Westchester Pike Business Association, Businesses of Fern Boulevard, as well as Delaware County Chamber of Commerce, and more. More tangible ways to engage. Having an introductory meeting or quick phone conversation is a great way to share projects in the pipeline and get to know a new vendor. We will open ourselves up even more than before to get to know our vendor community. The maintenance team has been working on getting more vendors involved in addressing our outstanding work orders through the new work order system. We will be sure to reach out to many vendors that participate in the event to take care of our work orders in the future too. Targeted data collection. This is one of the lessons that we learned from the last event. We will try to collect the more relevant data points from participating vendors. Some of the targeted information we are trying to collect include MWBE status, certifying agency information, MWBE type, and whether the vendor is a part of a cooperative purchasing network. The business office is truly looking forward to hosting this event, and we encourage all of you to participate. Thank you very much for your time. This concludes my presentation. And before I take your questions, for those who are listening or watching this presentation live, tell your neighbors and friends that Upper Darby School District has a great vendor event coming up in January. Thank you again for your time. I'll take your questions now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lee, and thank you in particular for putting in so much effort to reach out to women and minority-owned businesses. I know that that is extremely important to myself and to many of the board members, if not all the board members. I believe that Director Warsavage has a comment or question.
Thank you so much, Director Haig. Great presentation, Marvin. I did have a quick question. I remember us going through, I guess, the first iteration of this. It would be earlier this year, and I know how well received the job fair was at that time. My question for you would be, and I know we're reaching out to more and different businesses, what plans does the administration have on collaborating with whatever resources are necessary to identify LGBTQ-owned and affirming businesses that might want to also do business with the district? What does that look like for the administration? Thanks.
That is actually a question that I don't have answer to, but I am more than happy to explore what's out there to collect those information and get back to you on it.
I look forward to that. Thank you so much.
Mine is not a question, but more of a comment. District Attorney Jack Stolzheimer wanted me to thank you publicly in this forum for availing yourself and Mr. McGilvery to help with their vendor fair that they have coming up. You availed yourself for a meeting and you provided really good information. So they just wanted me to thank you in this forum for their outreach subcommittee of the Criminal Justice Task Force. Thanks.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from board members? And if not, Ms. Buford, are there any comments from the public?
Dr. Haig, there are no comments from the public.
Great. Then, Mr. Lee, could you please review the agenda items again?
Sure. So we had two agenda items this evening, and both were informational. The first presentation discussed the district's water testing results. The district administration provided with updates as it relates to the district's annual water testing analysis and results and reporting requirements established under Act 39 of 2018. The water testing was performed at all school district facilities in November 2020. The second presentation was about announcement of the upcoming vendor fair, tentatively scheduled on January 18th, 2021. The intent of the vendor fair is to inform new and existing vendors of upcoming capital projects and to encourage women and minority vendors to participate in the district procurement process. The vendor fair will be held virtually due to ongoing pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. At this point, I will send things back to President Brown.
Thank you, Dr. Haig. All right, good time of night. A motion is in order for the adjournment of the Finance and Operations Committee meeting.
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. The meeting is adjourned. Have a good night and a great holiday, everyone.
Good night.
Great night,
Good
everybody.
night. Good
Happy
holiday.
holidays, everyone.